Good morning, everybody, and welcome. My name is Megan Wood, and I have been an employee here for a while, but as of August 1, I am the Executive Director and CEO of the Ohio History Connection, and I welcome you to our home here at the beautiful Ohio History Center. Our mission is to spark discovery of Ohio's stories, to embrace the present, share the past, and transform the future. And we do this through a variety of ways. We have, of course, the Ohio History Center and Village here in Columbus, but we also have 58 sites across the state, and we also have programming that's statewide. If you love to stop at historic markers like I do, that is also one of our programs, and we're the State Archives and the State Historic Preservation Office. So I just want to thank the Columbus Chamber of Commerce for their service. I'm a brand new CEO, and you bring these programs right to my door. So thank you very much. That's some really high quality member services right there. And I just invite you to be a supporter of Ohio history or of history and arts and culture across our state. You can become a member of the Ohio History Connection, and if you are, thank you and welcome. And you can always support us. We are a private nonprofit that partners with the state of Ohio. And so we're always happy to bring on new donors and donations. So with that, I would like to welcome Don DePero to the stage.
Thank you, Megan, and congratulations. Wonderful, thanks for hosting us, as always. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the Columbus Chamber of Commerce's CEO Insights series. We're thrilled to welcome all of you here today to the Ohio History Connection. Thanks so very much for joining us. A special thank you to our 2022 CEO Insights partners, and you'll hear who they are in just a few minutes. We greatly appreciate your continued support of these phenomenal conversations. I just love to hear Colleen Marshall interview folks. She's amazing, and certainly one of the preeminent journalists of our community. And to begin this morning, I'd like to welcome a partner and a board member, Keith Martinez, the managing partner of Plant Moran. Join me in welcoming Keith.
Good morning, and welcome to the Columbus Chamber of Commerce's CEO Insight Series. My name is Keith Martinez, managing partner of our Columbus office at Plant Moran, longstanding partner of the CEO Insight Series. Plant Moran is a full-service CPA business advisory firm. Locally, we're offering assurance, tax, wealth management, and a number of other consulting services. Locally, we're preparing for significant growth. We just sent about 15 summer interns back to campus. We just welcomed 20 new starts here downtown Columbus, so it's been pretty busy and crowded in the office, so we're excited about all that. I actually lead our higher education practice in Central Ohio, so I'm particularly excited about today's speaker. We're thrilled to welcome Dr. Cale Allen, the current chancellor of WGU, Ohio, the state affiliate of Western Governors University. We're really thrilled to welcome him to our stage here at the Ohio History Connection. As a reminder, we'll be picking 5 random registrants from today's program to present Crimson Cup coffee and tea gift cards. Thank you to Greg Ubert and his team at Crimson Cup for this generous gift. Be sure to stick around for closing comments from Bill Nolan this morning, as he will announce today's winners. I hope you enjoy the program, and now I'd like to welcome Josh Riley of First Merchants Bank to introduce Dr. Allen. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. I am pleased to be with you all this morning representing First Merchants Bank, a sponsor of the CEO Insight series since the program's inception. At First Merchants Bank, we collectively feel that the work we do can help grow businesses, strengthen communities, and improve lives. We believe that the financial statements are just a snapshot. More important is a partner who understands you and provides sound advice. The Central Ohio team at First Merchants is driven by our involvement with businesses in Franklin and the surrounding counties and is here to provide insight, capital, and the necessary partnerships to help all the businesses in our community prosper. Over the years, we've had the honor of hearing many unique and inspiring stories from leaders in our community, and that continues today with our guest, Dr. K.L. Allen. Dr. Allen has close to 2 decades of higher education experience, ranging from launching and leading collegiate departments of business development and veterans affairs to teaching as an adjunct professor of business and education. He is also a veteran of the Army National Guard. Throughout his career, Dr. Allen has served on several boards and advisory committees as an advocate for socioeconomic equality, education, and entrepreneurship. A native of Princeville, North Carolina, Dr. Allen is passionate about removing social and economic barriers so that individuals may pursue educational opportunities that can help improve their chances to overcome those barriers. As a chancellor of WGU Ohio, he has championed the university's mission of changing lives for the better by creating pathways to opportunity. Joining Dr. Allen on stage is our host, Colleen Marshall, co-anchor of NBC4 at 6 and 11 p.m. Again, we thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoy the conversation. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Are our mics on now? Can you hear our mics? Okay. We weren't sure. Welcome to you and welcome to you.
Well, thank you.
We were having a lovely conversation back there, so I'm going to start out with your background. And you have a little bit of a North Carolina accent still, but not much. We're going to Ohio you up.
Okay.
So tell us where you started, where you grew up.
I grew up first of all, good morning, and thank everyone for coming out. It's a pleasure to see so many familiar faces from the WGU Ohio side to other community and business leaders. I grew up in a small area called Princeville, North Carolina. Princeville, North Carolina is like an hour east of Raleigh. Population maybe of 1,000. My father was in law enforcement for 30 years. Mom was a school teacher for 30 years. And it's one of those areas, I was talking to my Uber driver this morning, that you can leave your door unlocked and you didn't have to worry about anything. Everyone knew everyone. It was an area that I was honestly afraid to leave because that was my comfort zone. But I will say, due to family and other reasons and the support system, I was able to leave, and hopefully I've made the area, proud.
I also grew up in a town of 1,000 in Appalachia. When you talk about it's your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. You also are surrounded by people who like where they are and maybe don't encourage you to leave, because why would you want to leave? You're here in this town of 1,000 people where nobody has a job. Why would you want to leave? But so did you feel like you had a support system that allowed you to think, I'm going to move beyond North Carolina?
I think it was easy due to the fact that having an older brother, he left. So when he went to college, he ended up leaving. So there was a blueprint, but there was also what's next? You go away from your parents, and your parents have been your support system for so long. What if I go out and fail? What if something doesn't go right? What if I disappoint my parents? Who am I going to lean on? So I would just say having faith and luck allow me to be where I'm at. I mean, hard work, but it's hard to leave comfort zone. But now I've been gone for a while, like 20 plus years. And so when I go back home, it's weird to be home, but it's always good to see people that have grown up.
So you didn't leave to go to college directly. You went to the military. What was behind that decision?
Oh, here's a lot of vulnerability this morning.
They didn't say this was going to be easy.
I was always one of those kids that I had to do things my way. So if my parents said, son, don't touch the stove because it's hot, I'm gonna touch it. And I think if I would have went to school to play basketball, I don't think I would be where I'm at to this day. And so going to the military allowed me to get some discipline. It allowed me to grow up. It allowed me to see something bigger than the 1,000 people that I knew. It allowed me to get out of my comfort zone. It allowed me to have to trust people that I've really never met in my life. And that's made a lot of difference on how my leadership style and who I am to this day.
So when you were in the military, were you one of those people who was thinking, well, I wonder what I'm going to do next? Or one of the people who said, I know exactly where I go from here?
think it's always a wonder. Coming from a small town, like now we've had several individuals that go to the NFL and the NBA and so forth. But when I was coming along, there was really no blueprint of what success looked like. And I'll say for everyone, I think hopefully most people realize it. Success is not what anyone else tells you it is. It's what you feel it is. Because for me, I used to think success was having a big house, multiple cars, having a lot of money. And I realized when I acquired a lot of those things, I still wasn't happy. I still didn't have that peace of mind. So to me, success is peace of mind. Success is for me to look at my parents, for me to look at other family members and say, hey, like, we're doing okay. Because at the end of the day, we're alive. And if you wake up alive, I feel like that gives you the head start on the day.
Yeah, because if it's the alternative, you're really behind.
Indeed.
You're not going to get a lot done that day.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
So then you went on to college.
Correct.
After
Correct.
the military,
Correct.
right? After your
Correct.
experience. So did you know right away, I'm going to be an educator?
No, I wanted to go in law enforcement. My father's still my best friend to this day, and I wanted to go in law enforcement. My undergrad major was criminal justice and psychology, and that was my path to go in law enforcement. I didn't realize education until I already had graduated undergrad, and there was an opportunity presented to me to go into the higher ed field. And I started thinking about the conversations my parents used to have at the kitchen table. They used to have this a conversation about where should the state funding go at. My dad would always say, well, we need more funding in the criminal justice system. My mom would say, we need more funding in the education system. And one day she shut my dad up, which is very rare. She said, honey, if we put more money in the education system, they're less likely to go into the criminal justice system. And I was like, Dad, she has a point. He was like, yeah, maybe she does, son. And that's when I realized I wanted to kind of go into the education field, because being a military policeman, and it allowed me to follow my father's footsteps to a certain extent. And to me, education touches so many facets of life. It allows individuals. And for anyone, I mean, education is not just formal education, but if you see the light bulb go off with individuals, whether it's learning how to ride a bike or it's learning how to use a cell phone, it's just that light bulb going off, and it opens so many pathways. And I fell in love with education.
I'm going on totally on a sidetrack here because you made me think of something. I don't know if you're aware, but here in Columbus, we're having a problem right now with teenagers who are following the TikTok challenge. Have you seen that, where they're stealing cars? There was a fatal accident in July. 4 kids were in the car, only one of them survived. Yesterday, there was a terrible accident in a stolen car. Do you know who was at the wheel? The survivor from the car accident last month.
Wow.
So when you hear stories like that, you must want to reach out to these kids and say, there's another path.
It's, I was in someone's office yesterday, and that person's name will remain anonymous, but we talked about how there's this critical absentee rate that's going on. And I went to the thoughts of, is it lack of support system, a fear? And we said backstage, and so I graduated high school in '97, and so when I look at the news and I see people that were born in 1997 that are already passing, we have a problem. And it's gonna take everyone in this room and more to get those individuals back on track, because everyone has a dream. I'm a firm believer they have a dream, but they don't necessarily know how to realize that dream. So how do we make that dream reality? How do we pour into those individuals and say, there is a better way, that you don't have to steal a car. You can have the skill set to help create a car. So how do we pour into the communities that feel like they don't lack a dream? How do we pour into those communities that feel like no one cares? And I just feel like if we touch one, maybe we touch more, but I don't have the answers. My goal is to, I have some of the answers maybe, but my goal is to help direct as much as I can. Because throughout life, it's a lot of luck, it's a lot of faith. But our ultimate goal in life is to, I feel like, to make the world better. We're all gonna pass away. So that's a fact. We know that we're gonna pass away, right? So how do we make the world better when we're no longer here? How do we make the world better for our significant other, our kids? I think that's the ultimate goal. And I feel like everyone in this room is dedicated to that. So apologize for the long answer, but that's.
No, we want, this is what we want. We want to hear your feelings and your thoughts and how you got here. And I know you said you had your undergrad in criminology, and then a light bulb went off, right? That you're going to take a different path, that you're not going into law enforcement. Was your mom happy when you thought, okay, now I'm going to do this?
Yeah, she was happy. Seeing my mom, she taught grades K through 3 in the summertime, and even during the school year. There was a lack of patience, and I used to wonder why does she have such a lack of patience? And then it dawned on me one day that she deals with so many kids during the day that by the time she gets home, she's tired, but she's poured into so many other kids that, my brother and I was like, hey, Mom, we're here. But it made such a difference when we would go to the grocery store, or I would come back home and I'm with my mom. So Walmart is the place to go. If you want to see anybody in my hometown, you go to the local Walmart and you run into everyone. And you would see kids coming up to her and said, thank you, Miss Allen, thank you. And that's been one of my goals, is to have people to come back to say, hey, thank you, because it makes a difference. It truly makes a difference.
So you went on to get your doctorate, obviously.
Correct.
Is that a path you saw for yourself when you were younger? When you mentioned graduating high school. When you graduated high school, did you think to yourself, I'm going to get a PhD. I'm going to go as far as I can go in education?
No, when I graduated high school, I remember telling myself, if I made $40,000, I'm going to be okay in life. Seriously, that was my thought process. If I thought I made $40,000, and so the education piece just came from, I love to learn. I also want to be one of those academics that, I don't want to use the term stuffy, but people can see themselves in me, that if I did it, that you can do it as well. I think sometimes we create this persona that we have everything together, that we have all the answers, that because we have these degrees, we're put together. I don't, and I'm comfortable of being vulnerable. I'm comfortable of saying I still figure things out. So this morning, last night, I rarely get nervous. And this morning I woke up like, oh my God, I'm nervous. And someone asked me yesterday, are you nervous? And I said, no, I'm pretty, I'm ready for this. Then I woke up like, what is a kid from Princeville, North Carolina that grew up on a dirt road, what is he gonna talk about today? And look, I'm here today.
And you're doing great.
Thank you.
Now, you had a traditional college experience, right?
I did.
The traditional, I'm going to live in a dorm, I'm going to a school, to a university, it's away from home, very traditional classroom environment. How was that for you, this traditional? Was it a growing process for you?
Oh man, I remember having an 8 a.m. class on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And like, Mom and Dad, no one's gonna come and wake me up to make sure I go to class. But it was good. It allowed me to grow, evolve, and become. It allowed me to realize that I had a very solid upbringing. I took for granted having both of my parents growing up. And when I got to college, I realized that was not always the case. I also didn't realize how smart my parents were until I got to college, because a lot of the advice started to pay off. A lot of the wisdom started to come back into my mind. But there were some classes that I took that I wish there was competency-based education. There was world civilization before 1500. I wish I could have figured out a way not to spend my Friday evenings in that class. And so if competency-based WGU was around back then, I probably would have tried to figure out a way to get out of that.
But again, what school did you go to undergrad?
That was a small school, and when I mentioned the school to the person's office I was in yesterday, they said, I've heard of every school, but not this school. It's a small HBCU, historically black college university called Barbara Scotia College. And then I transferred over to UNC Charlotte. So it, very small school. Population, you see, I like the 1,000 number. So maybe we had 1,200 students on campus. So very, very small.
Has anybody in the room ever heard of that? One person?
Wow, wow, look at that.
Two. Look at you, look.
So that is, and when I take people there, I was like, this is where you went to school at? My godfather was the president of that university, and he mentored me a lot. And so being in this role, he's gave me a lot of advice, a lot of support. But the school, you know, honestly, they lost accreditation back in 2003, so I'm trying to help them to get their accreditation back. Yeah, so I know you probably have another question about traditional ed, but I kind of lost my thought there. So.
Yeah, well, where did you go from there? Where did you get your master's?
So from Barbara Scotia, I sat out a couple of years, not ensuring knowing what I wanted to do. I was a regional manager at AT&T. Back then it was Singular Wireless. I think that was a bad deal. Singular Wireless should have figured out a way to get AT&T's name. But I was selling to a school called University of Phoenix. And I'm pretty sure everyone heard that was a Charlotte campus. And they approached me and said, hey, do you want to work here? And so that's how I got into higher ed, because I was selling cell phone service to University of Phoenix. And then I ended up getting my master's there for free. And then I ended up going to Southern New Hampshire to obtain my doctorate. And now I'm trying to figure out if I want to go to law school.
Yeah, I was your age when I figured that out too. It's not too late. So you had, at the beginning, a traditional college experience. And then you transitioned, you did more online work, correct?
University of Phoenix was actually ground campus. I did not do online at Phoenix or SNU. I would go to Manchester, New Hampshire once a month. So the only time I did anything online was mainly teaching. So everything I did was in person.
You know, there was a time when these online colleges started that everybody was like, well, that degree can't be worth anything. You don't even see your teachers, you're not in a classroom, you don't meet your classmates. Was there an image problem, you think, at the beginning of the online sphere?
Yes, I feel like what you said, there was a lack of, is it rigorous enough? Will it test me? And then COVID occurred. COVID did a lot of harm. We lost too many lives with COVID. From the higher ed, I think it forced us all to think that we need to start pivoting, especially those ground campuses. If you take note, most of the major universities now have created some online format, and it's more acceptable. Our enrollment when I first started on May 4th, 2020, and I take no credit for our growth. I mean, there's Rachel Lamaster in the room, Grace Brown, and others that I give all the credit for the growth. We went from 3,400 students to over 4,500 students in a very short period of time. And that's because I feel like it's acceptable, it's accessible. You have so many individuals that have so much debt, and we needed to create another option. I don't look at any other university or institution as a competitor. I look at it as a collaboration. And so hopefully no one in higher ed looks at us when we came in 2018 as, oh, they're gonna take our students. If we're taking a student, look at it as what would that student have done without us? And any student does not go to WGU Ohio, if they go to Ohio State, Audubon, whatever, I'm happy for that student because they're better in their lives. That's a person that hopefully we don't have to worry about stealing a car. As long as they're being educated, making the society better, that's the ultimate goal for me, and hopefully it's all for educators. And so online, we're working from home. People are comfortable working from home. Now you're seeing some people may never go back to an office again. So you add that online component where you could spend time with your family. Because think about it, we were going to the office. When we had a long holiday break, we had to get reacquainted with our families, right? Because we were in the office so much. So it was like, oh, so this is what we do. Wheel of Fortune comes, well, not Wheel of Fortune, but like Wayne Brady's show comes on, right? Like this is what happens during the day. Now we all probably have the TV on in the background, knowing what's going on. But it makes it where you can connect with your family. Because again, people lost people, whether it's through COVID, through other diseases, and we need to spend more time with our family. And I know online education provides that. Is it for everyone? No, it's not for everyone. You have to be very self-disciplined to go to any institution, but even more so for an online institution. But I feel online education is here to stay because now you're seeing these bigger universities create an online component.
Yeah, I think in a strange way, the pandemic opened up opportunities for online educators because we all started realizing, oh, we can be productive with a Zoom call. We can connect online. I can still learn online. I can obviously research online. But do you hear from people who say, well, I'm concerned. I want my child to fly the nest and go off and be with a roommate and experience, fraternities or sororities and experience that collaborative, collective environment that you get when you're living on a campus. Do you hear from people who say, I don't want my child to not have that?
Yes, our average age is 33, so we're not necessarily getting a lot of students coming straight from high school because I'm a big proponent of go out and live life, go out to understand, because that brick and mortar experience for me was important. When you think about our student, they've went to college, something has happened, whether a kid, someone in their family was sick, and they needed to come back home to help. So I hear more from those adults who will reach out and send me an email and say, hey, thanks for WGU Ohio allowing me to put my family in a better situation. For the ones 18, 19, and 20, I've heard from parents as well say, hey, I like what you guys have, but I want my child to get more experience. I'm like, I'm all for that. And if it doesn't work out, we're here. Because I will honestly sit here and refer a student somewhere else if I feel like that's a better fit. Same thing with anyone from the WGU Ohio team. We want to do what's best for that individual, because if we're doing what's best for that individual, they're going to run into somebody that WGU Ohio is a fit. We partner with all of the community colleges in Ohio because we realize it's valuable for individuals to go to school in their community, and when they have that associate's degree, they then can come to get their bachelor's or their master's with us or somewhere else.
So explain to us what WGU is, the size, the scope, the majors. What, if I'm thinking to myself, what's WGU? What can it give me? What can it do for me?
So WGU was founded in 1997 by 19 Western governors. The whole thought process of Western Governors University, if you think about the West, there's a lot of distance between universities. So how will individuals become educated? So let's go online to create this online university. We removed the seat time aspect. So we're used to semesters, we're used to quarters. What WGU has set up is competency-based education. And what that means is once you master a skill set by B or better, you move forward. So if it takes you 3 weeks or it takes you 3 months to master that, you move forward. Everyone has a different skill set. The example that I like to utilize is if we brought in a car now with a flat tire, and I said, everyone, let's change that tire. It's gonna take most people a different time to change that tire because of a different skill set. So if you've been a business owner, you're good with financial planning, you'll go through it a lot quicker. But you also may have some skills you need to brush up on. We have a program mentor that helps students to support them throughout the program. And to answer the question about scope, nationally we have over 121,000 students. We have over 290,000 graduates. So we're one of the largest universities. In the state of Ohio, we have over 4,500 students and now close to 8,200 alums. You think about our 4 programs, which over 60 degree programs: College of Business, College of IT, College of Health Professionals, as well as our College of IT. So those are our 4 colleges, which are workforce, they need those skill sets. And so that's what we focus on, those 4 colleges, to get people moving up in their career so they can take care of their family. On average, once you graduate from WGU, you see a $15,000 increase 2 years after you graduate. So you think about somebody that's making $65,000, get a $15,000 increase, that adds to a lot of things. And that's what we want to do, is set people up for success. And for those who thought college was not for them, we've created a college for that student.
Now, you mentioned that the average age is 33. So these are people, mostly a lot of adults, who are saying, I need that degree. I
Correct.
need to be able to put, that diploma on the wall. But do employers look at online learning in the same way? I worked for a law firm for a while that paid very much attention, not just to whether you had the degree, but where you got it. So do you think employers are looking at the same level of respect at WGU or University of Phoenix that they are to Purdue or Ohio State?
With us being a nonprofit university, it helps us out a lot. Well, University of Phoenix is for-profit. Last week, I sat on around 6 calls where we talked to HR individuals about that very question: is if you saw an online institution, do you look at that, like what light do you look at it? Overwhelmingly, everyone stated that they didn't look at it as a negative, they didn't look at it as a positive. The main thing is that it's a degree, and it's from an accredited institution, which we are. Excuse me. I think from that conversation, what I took from that is we're no longer stringent societies that you have to go to an Ivy League school. Is do you have a degree and can you do the job? And with competency-based learning, the modality is set up where it's not a cookie cutter, that you're actually doing something, as opposed to all the theory. Now, I love theory. Like Maslow is like, I love talking about, hierarchy needs. But our school is set up to actually do it. So that way you can go and apply it the exact same day, as opposed to, okay, this is a great theory, but how do I apply this theory? So I've not heard any negative feedback. We have a lot of partners across the United States. We have great partners here. Cincinnati Public Schools, Reynoldsburg, Huntington, Ohio Health, Amazon. So we do a lot in this community with a lot of good partners.
So a typical class, you said someone can do it in 3 weeks, someone can do it in 3 months. So it's not a situation where at the beginning of a semester, a teacher is laying out a curriculum and teaching to a unit of people at the same time. Are they getting individual instruction, or is it all self-learning?
So this is how we're set up. So we start at the beginning of each month. And when you start that month, that begins your term. A term is 6 months. So everyone's term is going to be different depending on what you start. And so we have our program mentor to sports. We also have our instructors. We have evaluators. So there's a support system around each student because there is a lot of self-discipline. We don't want to have students to take on more than they could chew, because then we're setting students up for failure. The program mentor has a conversation with each student of how many CUs would you want to take. CUs for us is competency, but the same thing will be for credits. And it puts them on a track to be successful. So students can log in anytime they want to. So there's a lot of self-discipline. So when I go on Reddit, so I'm always like reviewing what are people saying about WGU. Hey, is WGU a good school? Will I be successful in WGU? And what I always read is, as long as you're self-disciplined, you're determined, and you use a support system around you, you will be successful. Again, I probably couldn't have did WGU coming out of high school. I probably couldn't. It's more for that individual who self-disciplined, they don't necessarily need a lot of hand-holding, but if they need hand-holding, we also have them. I was in Cleveland 4 months ago. I ran into a student, and he said, my brother went to WGU because he hated school. He said, my brother used to look at how many days he could be absent before he became truant. I was like, okay, and I'm like, where?
Well, he's a planner.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, where's the story going at here? He said, so he went online and looked for an online university that kind of go at your pace, and WGU was at the top. He ended up completing his degree in 6 months. That's not going to be for everyone. Whoever's calling, tell them, let me stop. Well, so it's one of those things that I love our model because it's not cookie cutter. It could be a lot of hard days for students, but we have a true support system where students can be successful, and that's very important.
So anecdotally, can you give me a success story? Have you run into a student who you think really started here and ended up here and now they're flying?
There's a cardiologist that actually attended WGU. A lot of business owners that attended WGU. Our alumni is heavily involved. So there are a lot of success stories. There's a student from East Cleveland. He's an immigrant. He came over here and he received his degree in IT in about 3 months. And now he's running the business in East Cleveland. So it's a lot of success stories. What I love to hear, and I'm gonna go back to why I fell in love with education outside of my parents. There was a student, she came into the office one day and she said, I need to go back to school. I was like, okay, let's fill out the application. And I noticed she wasn't very proficient in typing. And the school I was at that time, you had to write a lot of papers. So I said, go to the local community college. I was in Charlotte, so it was Central Piedmont Community College. Take a typing class, come back. She came back, she said, KL, I really need to get in school. Unbeknownst to me, she was going through domestic violence as well as divorce. Her son was incarcerated and she had a strained relationship with her mom. She came back not only to get her bachelor's degree, but she also got her master's degree. Her son, once he was released, came back to get his bachelor's degree. Her mom at the age of 68 came back to get her bachelor's degree. And so it's no longer in that family of if the next generation will go to school, it's when the next generation will go to school. And to me, that's the power of education. And those are the stories that keep me going. Like, people ask me all the time, like, why do I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning? One, it's military. Two, is because that's my debt to society, is how do I make society a better place? Because there's someone out there that needs us. When we walk by people in the morning, we don't know that journey. We don't know that life. It costs us nothing to smile and say, hey. The North Carolina thing used to get me in trouble when I first got to Ohio, because I used to speak to everybody in the elevator. Hey, good morning, how are you doing? And it was like, you're not from here, are you? I'm like, why? Because you speak to everybody. Like, where I'm from, I don't care what your car is. If it comes on the street, we're waving. If somebody blows the horn, we think you are somebody we know. And education is one of those things, and just life in general, it intersects. How do we truly help people to be better? We all have a skill set in this room. Let's not be selfish with that. A term that I hate is boss. And it's not my team, it's our team. I learn more from Rachel, I learn more from Grace, I learn more from those around me than I can probably ever give them. I am one that, we talk, backstage about success. And people ask me all the time, like, what have I learned from success? And my response is always how humbling it is. How humbling it is, because you quickly learn that there are some things you could have did better in life. There are some things I worry about. But there's also a part of success of this role that you give up a little bit of your privacy to a certain extent. There are certain times I see things on Facebook I want to respond to. But I know if I respond to it, Grace will probably begin a bunch of emails of like, oh, Dr. Allen, what did you say online? So every leader in this room, not even leader, just everyone in this room, make sure you take time away from people just to recharge. Take time to uplift and make sure your cup is full, because if you keep pouring in everyone's cup, you're gonna get stressed. Like, I'm a huge advocate of therapy. I'm a huge advocate of mental health support, because super vulnerable moment that I can't believe I'm about. I thought of suicide in my life. It came out, and if I would have went through with it, no one would have oh my God, he was gonna do that. Because I was always that one that everyone leaned on to be their support system. But I wasn't vulnerable enough to go and ask them to be there for me. And so through therapy, I've truly realized that strength is actually reaching out when you need help. Strength is reaching out to ask for advice. I mean, there's multiple people in this room that have been a support system. And I don't know why that was put on my spirit. I don't know if it's, and I'm not about to ask for a love offering or collection plate here. But if there's someone reach out to someone because we need you. And at the end of the day, if no one else loves you, I love you, so.
So I have to ask you, you have these amazing life lessons. How does that translate to your leadership style?
Realize I just don't have it figured out. I let people be authentically who they are. I would say I'm very unorthodox. Would you say that, Rachel and Grace? And before I move forward, because I mentioned Rachel and Grace, can you both please stand? I look at leadership as one that you have to sometimes do more listening than talking. It's, my first leadership role, I was horrible. I was horrible because I thought it was about me. When you start to realize it's about your team, it's about those individuals around you, that's when it truly matters. One of these I learned from the military, and I try to apply this to life. When things are good, I want the team to take credit for it. When things are bad, like that comes to me. I want the team to shine because they deserve to shine. My goal is to remove barriers and not to create barriers. I think too often leaders, some leaders get to the point they don't want to see their team move up because they feel like it's a threat. I want someone on the team to want my role because that means we're all elevating. I'm not one of these individuals that if Rachel came to me today or Grace came to me today and was like, hey, I want to be the chancellor of WGU Ohio. Okay, how do we get you there? Because I'm so confident that an opportunity will happen for me elsewhere or internally, and I'll be okay with that.
You mentioned backstage to me that you have a mentor, that someone was your mentor. Have you had a lot of mentors, and how important is it to be in a position like the position you're in now, to pass that knowledge and leadership skills along to someone else?
I always need more mentors, so if somebody wants to be my mentor, let's talk after. I've had some mentors, some of them sadly have passed away. A lot of my mentors came from my fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. That's really helped me out. We only have a certain time on stage. And I feel like the way we continue to have time on stage is by passing that knowledge down to other people. You know, we talk about the Belichick tree for coaching. That's the way I look at it, is if we pass that information down, we can see ourselves and others. So it's very, very important to pass information down. It's no need to keep that knowledge, because I asked you a question backstage about what advice would you give to yourself like 20 years ago. I always ask that question so I can apply that advice to myself moving forward. And so just like backstage, you poured into me, and I'm gonna take that advice and pass it on to somebody else. And that's how I feel like we just continue to build a legacy. So now, hopefully I don't disappoint you, because now I'm part of your legacy, so.
And you are. And you mentioned you have a 7-year-old son.
Yes.
So tell me the education path you envision for him.
I feel bad for that kid. I want Kingston just to be who he is. Grace, Rachel, like they know, like he's a super tall kid. Like he's like 4 feet 11 inches at 7, and it's one that, of course, when people see him, they think he's older, and it's like, oh, is he gonna play basketball? And I will comfortable say I hate that stereotype to a certain extent, because you see a tall black kid or a taller kid, it's like, oh, is he gonna play basketball? My goal for him is to find his way by support. He wants to go in law enforcement now because of his grandfather. It's not necessarily the path I want, but if he goes that path, I'm gonna support him. He's in a Montessori school now, which I feel fits him. He's interesting. He's an average 7-year-old that he feels like he's like 19 or 20. When his last day of first grade, I was about to take him to school, and he was like, Dad, let's have a man-to-man conversation. I'm like, I was like, okay, son, what do you want to have a conversation about? He's like, well, Dad, I'm about to go to the second grade. You're gonna have to start treating me like a second grader. So I was like, Kingston, what does that look like? What does me treating you like a second grader look like? And he gave me this quizzical look like, Dad, let me get back to you. He's yet to get back to me. And when I find that answer out, I'll know. But he starts school next week, so hopefully he figures out before then.
And so as you look, we're in the midst of possibly having a teacher strike here in Columbus. As you look at the public school system compared to a Montessori system, I mean, that's not something that goes into your thinking. You know, you're an educator. People look at you as having answers. Do you get called upon to give opinions on school situations, especially because of your son?
I've had some conversations. I will say I feel we can do more for our teachers. Without educators, who would we be? I mean, everyone in this room can think about a teacher that's had an impact on their lives. I'm not intrinsically involved in all of the issues, but I know that we've lost a lot of teachers. We've lost a lot of teachers in the state of North Carolina. We've lost teachers overall. And if that system is broken, I feel like society is broken to a certain extent. I don't think teachers get their due K through 12. We send our kids off to school. We entrust them with our most precious commodity. But then a lot of these teachers are still struggling, having to pick up part-time jobs. But again, without teachers, where would we be at?
And you obviously I'm from a family of educators as well, so I think sometimes I look at education a little differently. But you are in charge of a school that is different. What have the marketing challenges been like for expanding? You've only been here since 2018.
Correct.
So you're in a state that has, especially in central Ohio, there are a lot of educational opportunities here. We are surrounded not only by Ohio State, the most well-known, but you look at OU and Miami and all of these other, and even Columbus State now is really getting a reputation as being the affordable first step. So how do you market yourself in that environment?
Authentically. I'm any and everywhere. I am having the whole state, and we are a little different. I mean, we partner with President Harrison over at Columbus State. We have a good relationship with UC. It's being in authentic places where we connect with people. We have an initiative where we've helped nonprofits with laptops to close the digital divide. Because when I look at education maybe a little different. It's not just about that formal education, but how do we make people better citizens? How do we ensure that they can move into home ownership? How do they have better credit? So we create those things at WGU. Like I said earlier, I don't look at any institution as a competitor because we've done well. We will continue to do well. I truly feel we'll be at 5,000 students in the next year or so. Ohio is one of the states that are growing like crazy at WGU. But we've not really had a lot of marketing challenges. I mean, we have great partners. There's this organization called the Columbus Chamber that has been a phenomenal partner. And who I am and the great people around me, they introduced me to a lot. There was a meeting we had when I first started, and a couple of individuals in this room are familiar with this meeting. And the ask was, how many elected officials do we have in the state of Ohio? And it was like 40,000 plus. And it was like, okay, how do we get KO to meet with every elected official? And that's helped out immensely. The team is tireless, being any and everywhere to help build our brand awareness. We went from a brand awareness of 37% to over 58% in the last couple of years. And it's just due to our hard work. It's due to connecting people, sponsoring events, sitting on boards, and just so many people. So I feel the challenges that we have is how now do we get our alumni, which is online, together. So in the next month or so, you're gonna probably see a big bus with WGU on it coming through Columbus and all through Ohio. And so during this time, we have a Clippers game coming up on August the 31st that somebody be throwing out the first pitch, probably Rachel or Grace. And then we have there's an event that's going to be at the Columbus Zoo. Don, what is it? Clam Bacon Lobster Fest? Let's see how I put them on. That we're all.
200 more tickets.
Yeah, see, and so it's that what helps out our marketing opinion and our alums. And so to me, if we give back, take care of our alums, have authentic conversations, it's the old thing, field of dreams. If you build it, they will come.
But you also have some practical challenges that we saw during the pandemic in not just Appalachian parts of Ohio, but in a lot of the urban neighborhoods. There's a broadband challenge.
Indeed.
And there are families, remarkably, I mean, we think of it, this is remarkable. You're in Columbus and you don't have broadband, you don't have access to computers. I mean, how do you get around that whole, the whole access? Because for you, that's not only key, you have to have it
Good
to
point.
thrive.
A couple of years ago, I had a conversation, and I'll bring it back, where this individual that was going to church with me, he just wanted to apply for a job, but he didn't have access, and he was in a part of Ohio that you would think would have access. So that goes back to our laptop initiative, that we've worked with certain offices to ensure they have laptops where people can come in and apply for jobs. If they actually need to, if they're attending WGU, they have access to it then. We've partnered with AT&T, we've partnered with T-Mobile to kind of help close that. We've sent out hotspots to some of our students. So we play our part, but that is a challenge. We support the infrastructure bill that's happening in Ohio, and our goal is to be a part of the solution and help our students out. I mean, we open up our WGU Ohio office. If students need to come in to have internet access, they have the ability to do that as well. So our goal again is to remove any barrier for our students to be successful.
And Don, I'm not sure, do we have a question today from CEO Magazine?
Great question. Thank you.
Oh, hey, we're on a board together, we were.
Great background, publisher, Dispatch Magazine, CEO. I was going to come in here and ask a question that was more sort of theoretical about online learning, and theory, and research, and all that. But you've been so open with sharing your story. I was wondering if I'm going to take advantage of that, because there's a lot of leadership in the room. And I think most people in leadership positions feel like they can't let down, right? That you can't replenish because that's not what you're supposed to do. Can you talk about and elaborate more on that moment, those moments where you realized that you were needed to talk about therapy, and talk about replenishment, and it's okay to be open and honest about mental health issues, which are things that are really difficult, particularly if you're supposed to be in a position of power leadership to be able to have. Can you elaborate more on that and what brought you to that?
I had to redefine what success and power looked like. Most of us grow up looking at TV and we see, we look at the movies, everyone is put together. Everyone is perfect. For instance, I remember looking at TV, I'm like, how does his sideburns connect so perfectly, right? Like everything. And then I heard about this product called Beijing Inherit. I'm like, oh, that's how that works. My father and I, we had a conversation, back home, and he was like, son, if you're not together, you're letting people around you down. How do you be authentic? And to me, being authentic, it was like, I don't have everything together. I don't have all the answers. I think if anyone has all the answers to that, blunt moment, I think they're lying to themselves. I want to be better. My goal is to be better every day. The way for me to be better every day is to realize that I have challenges, to realize that I cannot be better for myself, but be better for those around me that are counting on me. And I can't be that best if I'm not talking about the issues that impact me. I remember George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, and so many other issues. And I would always get asked, what's my thought process on those? And I would pause and say, and I would ask myself, how do I really address that question? Because there's no right way to address that question. If I address that question from the side of this was wrong, then somebody was like, oh, well, he doesn't like the police. But I'm like, well, no, I was in law enforcement. My father was in law enforcement. And so there is so many stigmas that come. I'm so glad that Colleen didn't ask me the question that I hate. How does it feel to be a black chancellor? I hate that question. I hate it. Why do we have to fix color or race to anything? I just know how to be me, and it's not always the right way. But I think we have to stop creating this stigma that we have it together. We don't, because that's what makes us human. That's what makes us human. We're gonna have bad days. There's times that people cut me off in traffic, and I want to cuss them out. But I also realize I have to be better. And the reason I'm being long-winded on your question, but what always gives me pause before reacting is, that happened to me one time. It was the holiday season. The mall was always crazy during the holiday season. Everybody's doing, well, I'm doing last minute shopping. And I was about to park, and someone cut me off and took it. I'm like, beepity beep, 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 beep. The gentleman got out and said, I'm sorry, my wife is going into labor. Again, we don't know the journey, but what we can control is how we react. And we have this issue of succession planning on leadership. I think we have that issue because leaders have created this stigma that you have to be perfect. And I think that's BS. Be who you are and be better every day. Seek therapy, have a good support system, but also realize that a lot of people laugh at your jokes because of your title, not necessarily because who you are. You remove that title and see how many people laugh. So that's what keeps me humble, and that's what keeps me striving to be better for those around me.
Well, I have another question. How's it feel to be a black chancellor?
I have an answer for that, though.
No, that one didn't occur to me. But I do, before we let you go, I do want to ask you, you seem to be a visionary. You seem to have, a real handle on how you treat the people around you. And that has to have added to the success of WGU Ohio. Where do you see this WGU Ohio and yourself 5 years from now?
Whoa. Grace, Rachel, close your ears on this one. Those could be two separate entities, who knows, right? I think WGU, regardless of here or not, they will continue to flourish. It's a great model, it's a great setup. Myself, I just want to be in a place where I continue to impact. Right now, that's WGU. I think that will continue to be WGU. I want to continue to make the world a better place. I know that seems so idealistic. I want to help those individuals. Let me give a better authentic. I want to be in a place to help build on the foundation of what we have in common. I think now in the media, I think media gets a bad rap now. Let's focus on what we have in common and grow from there. Again, the question about race. Okay, maybe let's talk about coffee. How do you like your coffee? Do you like it straight black? Do you like a lot of sugar in it? And then let's start having those uncomfortable conversations. Online will be here. I hope to just continue to make my parents proud, those around me proud, and to help change lives so they can stop having dreams deferred. That's my goal. I don't want people to have dreams deferred. I want people to have that epiphany and that whole self-actualization. As long as I'm a piece of that, I'm fine. 5 years, I see Rachel a master running, being a big part of WGU. I see Grace. I see Grace as a business owner. I see Grace as a business. As you see, I always deflect back to the team around me, because those two are so important to my success, and it means a lot. So,
Well, Dr. Allen, we thank you so much for today sharing his thoughts. Wasn't he great?
Thank you.
Really good job.
I know, best job in the house. Well, thank you, Dr. Allen, and thank you, Colleen. It's always best in the business here in town. And I'm Bill Nolan, and managing partner of Barnes & Thornburg in Columbus. Just, I was saying to some people earlier, we're going to sign our lease renewal in the Huntington Center this week. So excited about that. And it's just, we love just being a small part of these programs and the stories of both the businesses and institutions as well as the leaders. So, and to hear about sort of how WGU fits into all, and we didn't talk about everything going on the east side, and how WGU seems to me to be a big part of that potentially, and also Dr. Allen's openness and passion. So let's just give Colleen and Dr. Allen one more round of applause. So yeah, I do get to give away the Crimson Cup gift cards, and you can, the 5 winners can stop at the desk on the way out. Looks like a pretty manageable group of names. So Sarah Blakely at Best Buddies, Charlotte Joseph at Local IQ, Robin Kinford at Wealthbridge, Nora Kate Wewell at Hunter Market, and last but not least, Madison Whalen at CHW Advisors. So thanks to Greg Ubert and Crimson Cup for those gifts. And again, you folks can stop at the desk on the way out. So with that, just remind people to always keep your eyes on columbus.org, and I'm sure you get Columbus Chamber emails or tons of great events. In addition to CEO Insights, and the Chamber team, well represented here, does such a great job sort of connecting, helping you figure out what your business, what events work for your business as they have for us at Barnes & Thornburg. So that's the last word. Drive safely. Think of Dr. Allen's words if somebody cuts you off, and we'll see you next time.